Drop everything you think you know about reality. Abandon every assumption, every belief that tells you the world is fixed, that you are bound by circumstance, that you are anything less than the creator of your own existence. Just for one day, experiment with this truth. Walk through the world knowing that your consciousness is the source, that everything you see is an extension of your perception. Observe what happens when you refuse to react to negativity, when you assume the state of your desired reality before the evidence appears. For the next few minutes, I want you to accept this as absolute truth. Just for a moment, suspend all doubt and listen, because if you do, if you truly take this knowledge and apply it, your entire world will change. Now, let's begin. Reality is not what you think it is. It is not an objective, external phenomenon, independent of your observation. It is, in fact, an emergent construct, an ephemeral projection that crystallizes in response to the act of perception itself. Quantum mechanics has long dismantled the classical assumption of an independent, observer-free universe. The observer effect, a fundamental tenet of quantum theory, demonstrates that subatomic particles do not assume a definite state until they are measured. Before observation, they exist as a wave of infinite probabilities, fluctuating between countless potential states. This means that reality, at its most fundamental level, is not an immutable structure. It is a dynamic field of possibilities, awaiting conscious interaction. Physicist John Wheeler took this notion even further with his participatory universe theory. He postulated that reality is not simply observed, it is actively constructed through observation. He famously stated, "No phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon." If reality is formed through participation, then the material world is not a fixed entity. It is a canvas, shaped by the mind that perceives it. Ancient spiritual traditions have whispered this truth for millennia. The Upanishads declare the world is Maya, an illusion projected by consciousness. The Buddhist doctrine of sunyata affirms that all phenomena are inherently empty, formless until mind gives them meaning. Even modern-day simulations designed to respond dynamically to player input bear an eerie resemblance to the participatory structure of our own reality. The fabric of existence does not exist outside of your observation. It is entangled with it. This principle is not only encoded in quantum physics, it is deeply embedded in the esoteric traditions of the ancient world. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without, is more than poetic mysticism. It is a metaphysical algorithm, a formula revealing that the outer world is nothing more than a reflection of the inner world. What you hold as true within yourself, your emotions, beliefs, and perceptions, manifests as the tangible world around you. This concept is omnipresent across mystical traditions. The Kabbalistic tree of life maps the process by which consciousness descends into material reality, showing that the physical realm is the final crystallization of higher, unseen forces. Advaita Vedanta asserts that Brahman, the absolute reality, is singular, indivisible, and that the separation between observer and observed is an illusion of the mind. Gnostic Christianity goes so far as to claim that the material world itself is an artificial construct, a prison of perception designed to keep consciousness trapped within the illusion of separation. The modern analogy of the Matrix is no mere fiction. It is an ancient truth repackaged for a digital age. Just as a character within a simulation perceives a pre-programmed world, so too does the human mind experience reality through the conditioned lens of belief and expectation. What appears solid is merely an interface, a matrix of energy that responds to your mental input. And yet, despite these revelations, there exists a program within the simulation, an entity that convinces you that you are separate, finite, and bound by the laws of materiality. This is the ego, the false self, a construct of identification that confines the infinite observer within the narrow framework of personal identity. The ego is a survival mechanism, a narrative generator that takes fragments of experience and weaves them into a cohesive identity. But this identity is not you. It is a conditioned response, an accumulation of past memories, fears, and societal imprints. Like a character in a role-playing game, The ego is merely an avatar, an interface between the formless observer and the illusion of material reality. The moment you identify with the ego, you subscribe to the illusion of separateness. You become locked within the simulation, believing yourself to be a powerless entity navigating an external world. But the truth is this: you are not the character, you are the player. You are not the program, you are the coder. The moment you awaken to this reality, you reclaim the fundamental power of consciousness to shape, alter, and transcend the simulation itself. In the past, the notion that reality could be a simulation was confined to the realms of metaphysics and mysticism. But today, some of the most brilliant minds in science and philosophy are seriously considering the possibility that we exist within an artificial construct, a vast computational framework indistinguishable from what we call reality. Philosopher Nick Bostrom formulated the simulation argument, proposing that an advanced civilization, one capable of harnessing computational power far beyond our comprehension, would inevitably create simulated worlds inhabited by conscious entities. If such civilizations arise, and if they run many such simulations, then statistically, it is far more likely that we are inside one of these simulated realities rather than in the singular base reality. Elon Musk echoed this sentiment, stating that the probability we are living in base reality is 1 in billions. With the exponential growth of AI, quantum computing, and neural simulations, we are rapidly approaching a point where we too will be able to create conscious, self-aware beings within digital frameworks. If this is within our reach, why would it not be within the reach of an advanced civilization that came before us? But the most damning evidence does not come from speculation alone. It comes from experimental physics. The double-slit experiment, one of the most perplexing discoveries in quantum mechanics, reveals a truth that shatters the Newtonian understanding of a fixed, independent reality. When particles are not observed, they behave as waves, existing in a state of probability, spread out across multiple locations at once. But the moment they are observed, they collapse into a defined state, behaving as discrete particles. This implies that matter itself does not exist in a solid form until consciousness interacts with it. This leads to an even more staggering implication. If matter is not inherently real, if it only assumes solidity when measured, then reality is a construct, a dynamic system rendered in response to perception. In other words, the universe functions exactly like a simulation, where rendering only occurs when necessary, when there is an observer present. Furthermore, the brain, often assumed to be the generator of consciousness, may instead be a receiver, a biological interface tuned into a higher dimensional field of awareness. Neurophysiologist Sir John Eccles and physicist Roger Penrose have both suggested that the mind operates on quantum principles, interacting with an underlying field of consciousness that is non-local and independent of space-time. This would mean that our thoughts, our awareness, are not confined to the skull, but are part of a vast, interconnected informational matrix. If consciousness is fundamental and matter is emergent, then our experience of reality is not primary. It is a projection, much like data appearing on a screen. This idea is further reinforced by the work of David Bohm, who proposed the holographic universe theory. Bohm's research in quantum physics led him to believe that the universe is not a collection of independent objects, but rather an indivisible whole, a vast interconnected web of energy and information. A hologram is a structure where each fragment contains the whole. If you were to take a holographic plate and break it, each piece would still contain the entire image. Bohm argued that the universe operates on the same principle. What appears to be separate objects and events are merely different perspectives of the same underlying reality. This aligns with the idea that reality is fractal, self-replicating at every scale, from the spirals of galaxies to the structure of neurons in the brain, from the branching of rivers to the formation of lightning. Nature exhibits an undeniable pattern of recursion. The ancient Hermeticists understood this deeply, encoding it in the maxim, "as above, so below," an assertion that each layer of existence mirrors the whole. If reality is holographic, then what we perceive as the physical world is nothing more than a manifestation of encoded information projected from a deeper, unseen order. The implications are profound. What we call solid reality is not solid at all. It is a multidimensional interference pattern, an interplay of frequencies that appear tangible only because of the limitations of human perception. Understanding the holographic nature of reality leads us to one inescapable conclusion. The world you experience is a direct projection of your consciousness. At every moment, your mind acts as both the observer and the architect, collapsing the quantum wave function into the specific version of reality that aligns with your beliefs, emotions, and expectations. This is not poetic metaphor. It is physics. Your thoughts do not exist in isolation. They create ripples in the fabric of reality. This is why reality operates as a feedback loop. What you focus on expands, because in a participatory universe, attention is the mechanism that dictates what gets rendered into existence. If you hold onto fear, your perception filters reality to confirm that fear. If you cultivate gratitude, your consciousness tunes into circumstances that reflect abundance. This is the foundation of emotional frequencies, shaping external conditions. Every emotion you experience has a measurable vibrational frequency. Fear, guilt, and shame operate at lower frequencies, correlating with entropy and disorder. Love, joy, and gratitude exist at higher frequencies, harmonizing with patterns of coherence and order. In a reality where everything is energy, your emotional state determines the structure of the world around you. What this means, in the most practical sense, is that the world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every moment, you are either consciously or unconsciously shaping the simulation. Whether you realize it or not, you are the architect of your own experience. Reality is not something that happens to you, it is something that responds to you. Your reaction to events is the mechanism that locks them into place, solidifying them as your lived experience. This is the fundamental law of the participatory universe. What you observe and engage with becomes real. Ancient mystics understood this deeply. They knew that non-reaction, detachment from the illusions of the material world, was the key to mastering reality. The moment you stop emotionally investing in events that disturb you, you cut off their power. Every reaction acts as a form of consent, reinforcing that particular construct within your personal simulation. But if you withdraw your emotional response, the energy fueling that experience collapses, and reality is forced to reorganize itself around a new paradigm. This is why detachment is the foundation of control. Non-reaction is not passivity, it is power. When you remain unmoved by external conditions, you become the causal force rather than the effect. You break free from the illusion of circumstance and reclaim your role as the architect of reality. Consider the paradox of a lucid dream. The moment you realize that what is happening around you is an illusion, the dream loses its grip. You can then reshape it at will, bending the environment to your desires. Life operates in exactly the same way. The more you resist the urge to react, to be pulled into the illusion, the more you reclaim your ability to shape reality consciously. This is why the great sages and spiritual masters, from the Stoics to the Zen Buddhists, preached the art of detachment. To be free from reaction is to be free from fate. Once you master this, reality is no longer something you endure, it is something you design. If reality is a simulation, then belief is the code that dictates its parameters. And the seat of this code is not in the conscious mind, it is buried deep within the subconscious. Your subconscious mind is the invisible architect of your world. It is the operating system that runs beneath the surface, filtering your perceptions and shaping the events you experience. Every belief, assumption, and expectation that resides within the subconscious acts as a command, an instruction that the simulation follows. If you believe you are powerless, the simulation will generate scenarios that confirm your powerlessness. If you believe you are abundant, reality will conspire to validate that truth. This is the core principle behind Neville Goddard's "Feeling is the Secret." Goddard understood that the subconscious does not respond to logic or external reality, it responds to feeling. If you assume the emotional state of already having what you desire, the subconscious mind accepts it as truth, and reality must reflect that new assumption. Think of this as rewriting the source code of your personal simulation. The feeling state is the command input. The subconscious mind is the processing system, and material reality is the output. By consistently dwelling in the emotional state of your desired reality, you override the old programming and install a new framework, a new set of parameters that dictate what can and cannot exist in your world. The problem is that most people do this unconsciously. They reinforce old patterns by dwelling in the emotional states of fear, doubt, and limitation. But if you learn to consciously program your subconscious, through repetition, visualization, and emotional immersion, you gain the ability to dictate the conditions of your reality. The mystics have always known this. The modern mind is only beginning to catch up. One of the greatest illusions of the simulation is the linear structure of time. You have been conditioned to believe that events unfold in a strict cause and effect sequence, that the past dictates the future, and that you must move through a logical progression to reach a desired outcome. This is false. Time is not linear. It is a construct of the mind. In the deeper reality beyond the simulation, all possibilities exist simultaneously. Every potential version of your life, every alternate outcome is already encoded into the quantum field. The only thing that determines which version you experience is your state of consciousness. You do not move through time, time moves through you. Your consciousness is like a tuning fork, selecting which timeline to collapse into physical reality. This means you do not need to wait for change. You need only to assume the frequency of the reality you wish to inhabit. This is the science behind shifting into parallel realities. You are not bound by the past. The future is not something that happens to you. The moment you shift your internal state, the external world reorganizes to reflect that shift. Cause and effect collapse into a singular event. Who you are now determines the reality you step into next. So how do you use this? You must begin thinking from the end. Instead of viewing your desires as something to be achieved, you must experience them as if they are already real. Your emotions must be indistinguishable from those of someone who has already arrived. The moment you embody this state fully, without doubt, without hesitation, you trigger the shift. The universe has no choice but to comply. This is why those who expect miracles receive them, why those who believe in their own power become powerful. Reality is not something that unfolds, it is something that responds. Once you realize this, you are no longer a prisoner of fate. You are the creator of worlds for your entire life. You have been conditioned to believe that the world is something that happens to you, a fixed, external structure operating independently of your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. But now, you have seen the truth. The world is not external at all. It is not something you are trapped inside. Every moment, with every thought, you are generating the parameters of your own reality. Every reaction, every belief, every assumption you hold is shaping the simulation around you. The universe is not static. It is a living, breathing reflection of your consciousness, adapting and responding to your internal state in real time. If you take this knowledge and apply it, if you commit to living as the architect rather than the subject, you will witness immediate transformation. The things that once held you back will dissolve. The obstacles that seemed immovable will realign. You will watch as reality bends, not because you forced it to, but because you finally stopped consenting to limitations that were never real to begin with.